Stop scrolling, because what happened at Sundance Film Festival has turned a feel-good documentary premiere into a full-blown controversy storm. The lights dimmed, the cameras flashed, and Meghan Markle walked in like this was a triumphant Hollywood return. But whispers were already swirling before the film even started.
It's just, of course it's important that public figures respond to this tragedy, and that's the most ghastliest of tragedy, but you can't help thinking there's a heavy dollop of opportunism and insincerity in this, which I think most people would find, not to their liking.
People expected celebration. Instead, they got confusion, awkward glances, and a growing sense that something about this night didn't add up. Because this wasn't just any screening, this was supposed to be a powerful documentary moment, a statement, a comeback narrative. And yet, the energy in the theater told a different story. Seats, empty ones, more than anyone expected for a festival where tickets usually disappear in minutes. Attendees noticed, industry guests noticed, staff definitely noticed. Then came the speeches. On stage, the praise was glowing. Words like meaningful, powerful, important filled the air, but in the audience, mixed reactions. Some nodded along, others looked uncertain. Because here's where things get complicated. The documentary itself focuses on the world of competitive cookie sales tied to youth organizations, a subject that sounds sweet on the surface, but according to several viewers, takes a more uncomfortable turn as it unfolds.
Meghan, in the video, she appears to move this woman's wheelchair without asking her permission, and the individual stops mid-conversation, kind of shocked, as Meghan moves her towards the group for a photo, because, no one loves to document their good deeds more than Meghan Markle.
Viewers describe scenes showing the financial pressure on families, the competitive intensity, and the emotional weight placed on very young participants. For some, it was eye-opening. For others, it felt unsettling. And that's where the controversy truly ignited. Because after watching the film, some attendees quietly wondered whether the red carpet messaging matched the film's more complex themes. Online discussions picked up fast. Not outrage exactly, more like disbelief. Did they see the same movie we did? One attendee reportedly wrote in a festival forum.
It's actually so freakish and disturbing now that we have to talk about it. Meghan Markle's cosplaying of the late Princess Diana in Harper's Bazaar has caused international derision, actually, because this is no longer deniable.
That comment spread quickly. Then came the industry chatter. At Sundance, films often arrive seeking distribution. That's normal. But insiders started speculating about whether major platforms would take the leap on such a delicate subject handled in such a glossy promotional frame. No official statements, just questions. The kind Hollywood trades in like currency. And then, the moment that made people lean forward in their seats. Reports surfaced that the film had been in development for years, yet still premiered in a marketplace setting rather than landing a guaranteed global release first. That's not scandalous on its own, but paired with the high-profile presence, it raised eyebrows. Was this a passion project? A strategic move? A last-minute attachment? Nobody on record would say. But the most talked about detail of the night wasn't about distribution at all. It was about the disconnect between tone and topic. Several audience members later described the film as more critical and layered than the celebratory introduction suggested. The documentary, they said, explores ambition, pressure, and the blurred line between encouragement and expectation placed on kids, which made the glowing praise beforehand feel jarringly upbeat. That contrast, not a single quote, not a single headline, is what truly fueled the fire, because film festivals run on perception. And perception that night shifted by the minute. Was the film inspiring, exploitative, nuanced, misunderstood? Different viewers walked out with different answers, but nearly everyone agreed on one thing. Nobody expected a cookie-themed documentary to spark one of the most talked-about debates of the festival. And just as the premiere ended, the online reaction began. Threads, posts, commentary videos, think pieces, not accusations, interpretations, questions. Cultural analysis about childhood achievement culture, parental involvement, and the commercialization of youth programs. The documentary had clearly struck a nerve. Whether that was the intention or an unintended side effect depends who you ask. But the red carpet glow? That faded fast once the conversation moved from fashion to film content. And that's when the story moved beyond one screening and into something much bigger. Because once festival chatter hit the internet, it stopped being a film conversation and started becoming a cultural one. People weren't just debating whether the documentary was good, they were debating what it meant. Some viewers praised it for pulling back the curtain on the pressure modern kids face to achieve early, sell more, smile bigger, be impressive before they're even old enough to spell the word pressure. Others felt uneasy, saying the film walked a thin line between documenting ambition and quietly normalizing it. And into that already complicated discussion stepped two of the most recognizable names in the room, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Not because they directed the film, not because they filmed it, but because their presence instantly reframed it. Suddenly, this wasn't just a documentary about youth sales culture. It became a celebrity-endorsed statement, whether that was the intention or not. Online commentators began replaying clips from the post-screening remarks, comparing the tone of celebration on stage with the more complicated emotional texture people described seeing on screen. Some thought the optimism was genuine. Others thought it sounded like a completely different movie had been watched. That contrast became the headline. Then came the second wave, the organizational angle. Viewers started asking, how did the real-life groups connected to the traditions shown in the film feel about this portrayal? While no formal controversy erupted publicly, discussions noted that the documentary itself includes a clear disclaimer stating affiliated organizations were not involved in the production. That small detail suddenly mattered a lot more once debates over representation took off. Because when a film explores a beloved tradition but also highlights uncomfortable realities within it, people want to know who signed off and who didn't. The absence of official partnership became part of the story. And that's when industry insiders quietly shifted the conversation again, toward distribution. At festivals like Sundance Film Festival, premieres are often the first step in a long sales journey. Totally normal. But when a project carries globally recognized public figures in its promotional orbit, expectations skyrocket. Would a major streamer jump in? Would a traditional studio take the risk on a nuanced, potentially divisive topic wrapped in glossy red carpet visibility? Silence, meetings, no announcements. Speculation filled the gap. Some analysts suggested the film might be a harder sell precisely because it doesn't sit neatly in one emotional lane. It isn't pure celebration, it isn't pure exposé, it lives in that gray space, and gray doesn't always make for easy marketing. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best, picked apart every detail, body language and photos, which questions got answered, which ones didn't, who spoke first, who didn't speak at all. Film festivals thrive on storytelling, and sometimes the off-screen narrative grows louder than the film itself. That seemed to be happening in real time. Supporters argued that drawing attention to the film in any form helps important conversations reach wider audiences. Critics argued that celebrity spotlight can oversimplify delicate topics. Both sides agreed on one thing. The premiere sparked far more debate than anyone expected walking into a documentary about kids and cookies. And then came the personal lens. During post-screening remarks, reflections about parenthood and perspective added another emotional layer. For some viewers, that made the film's themes hit harder. For others, it deepened the disconnect they felt between inspirational framing and the tougher realities shown. No shouting matches, no dramatic walkouts, just a quiet, persistent feeling among some attendees that they'd witnessed two parallel narratives unfolding at once, the one on screen and the one being described on stage. Neither fake, neither simple, just different. By the next morning, entertainment panels and culture writers weren't asking, was it good? They were asking, what exactly are we celebrating here? That question is trickier, heavier, and far more likely to fuel think pieces than star ratings ever could. And through all of it, the documentary itself remained what it always was, a film exploring childhood ambition, parental involvement, and the systems that shape both. But now it carried extra weight because perception had layered over content. That's the unpredictable alchemy of a high-profile premiere. Intention meets interpretation, and the result rarely belongs to just one side. Industry watchers say this moment will likely follow the project wherever it goes next, into negotiations, future screenings, and eventual release plans. Not necessarily as scandal, but as context, as conversation, as a question mark that audiences will bring with them before the opening scene even begins. Because once a film becomes part of a wider cultural debate, you can't rewind it back to being just a movie. And maybe that's the real twist no one saw coming that night. Not empty seats, not awkward applause, not online chatter, but the fact that a story meant to spotlight young determination ended up spotlighting something else entirely. How adults frame childhood success, how institutions shape opportunity, and how celebrity presence can amplify or complicate both. By the end of the weekend, one thing was crystal clear. The premiere didn't quietly pass through the festival schedule. It landed, it echoed, and it left behind a question that's still hanging in the air. When we tell stories about kids striving to succeed, are we cheering them on or asking them to carry more than they should? That's the conversation that followed everyone out of the theater, and it's the one that isn't fading anytime soon.